Texans general manager Nick Caserio. My goodness, what intensity. Let's react to his first words about Stefon Diggs, as well as what he had to say about the state of the team, the draft, and all that. Plus, Cal McNair, another uniform leak. And once again, the owner has to save the day. Wild day for the Texans. Let's talk about it in the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
What a wild day for the Texans. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. So we have a GM going hardo. We have an owner having to save this whole uniform thing. Once again, yet another leak. And we have a lot more going on. So we'll get into all of it. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. And we will get into all of it. Let's start. Where should we start? Should we start with the uniforms or should we start with Hardo Caserio? Let's start with Hardo Caserio. Let's actually start with Hubra. Is it taboo among media to ask questions that break the flow of discussion? Oh, man, you're just coming in firing. Appreciate the soup. All right, you know how I am with this. Is it taboo among media to ask questions that break the flow of discussion, or is it just to get your question out there and hope for an answer? Seems like Nick gets chippy talking in circles or jumping topics. I think there's, to be quite honest, I think there's some media who just don't get it when it comes to actual flow of questions, what needs to be asked, what should be asked. I think a lot of times there's a lot of softballs thrown out there, and people are just asking questions just to ask questions. I think when you go to a press conference, the main question should be what do the fans want to know? What will add to the content I'm trying to put out? Et cetera. And today, the Stefon Diggs should have been the first question. I mean, we hadn't heard Nick Caserio talk about Stefon Diggs, so I think Stutz eventually asked it. But that's what the first question should have been. It should have been about Stefon Diggs. Nick sometimes just doesn't say a lot, but as far as chippy, I do think that there can be times where guys get annoyed. Some guys will throw a coach a softball just because they, for some reason, feel like they have to protect them. But yeah, I don't know if it's taboo. I think a lot of times it's just people aren't really thinking. And I don't know if antagonize is correct. I mean, I don't know. Who are you talking about? This is a Houston thing. So give me, like, who's antagonizing at these press conferences? I think the right question's being asked, but as far as in here, who's antagonizing? I mean, I think in some areas there might be. I think Brian T. Smith used to antagonize. I think he used to just try to kind of put himself over, but I don't really know who's really going to antagonize here. So yeah, that's just the thing that I see. Did I see the AD leak? What is an AD? What do you mean? Definitely saw the helmet. We'll get into that. But yeah, to answer your question, I think a lot of times people just sometimes go into these and they just ask questions just to hear themselves. Sometimes they don't take into account what fans want, and that's really that. Appreciate the question. Let's hear from Hardo Nick Caserio, who met with the media. I thought it was an interesting session. I thought it was one of his more interesting sessions. And and it seems like he's really kind of intense at the time at the point right now. And let's hear from Caserio. He walked up there. Look at him getting that mic ready. This guy's about to go hardo.
Bad microphone. So,
oh wow.
Appreciate everybody being here. Looking forward to next week. Just winding down here with some of our preparations relative to the draft. Number of things going on. I would say organizationally in the building as well. Kind of start actually kind of looking ahead a little bit. So, definitely excited to be a part of kind of the Hall of Fame festivities relative to, Andre's induction and involvement. So kind of shortens the off season or shortens the training camp or shortens vacation over the summer. But, to have an opportunity to be a part of that week, really it's a week more than anything. I know the game in and of itself is Thursday night, but to be there to support Andre and what he's done for the city of Houston, for the organization, and for us to be able to participate in the game. But honestly, it'd be a good opportunity for a number of players. So it's an extra week, an extra game. But, certainly be remiss if didn't mention that. As far as the team is concerned, it's good to have everybody back in the building, or most of the team for the start of the offseason program. Really, it's the first opportunity for the team to get together, spend time really with the strength and conditioning staff. And then next week or the week after that, first week in May, kind of transition to phase 2 and start some of the on-field work with the coaches. And I think really the focus during the off season is just improvement and work. And then once we're, done here in the off season, try to get ready for training camp and get ready to go. Probably have different players at different stages relative to their development, relative to what they're going to do during the course of spring. But it's good to have everybody in the building, making some modifications to the building, redoing the weight room, shifting some offices. So we've had to, adapt and adjust here a little bit. I think that's emblematic of our program and kind of what we're about. But, I think some of the changes and adjustments that we're making in the building, certainly appreciative of the support that the McNairs have given us relative to making the resources available. So, we come back for training camp, coach's offices will be in a different spot. And it's all designed to help the players and make ourselves accessible to the players, make the coaches available to the players, and make the flow a lot easier on the players. So just a number of things going on just kind of outside of the draft, outside of football. I'd say as it pertains to the draft, certainly excited about the opportunity we have in front of us next week. We have 9 picks as of Thursday night. We'll see if that changes or stays static, but it's given our history, it'll probably change at some point. Finished up some of the draft visits in terms of players in the building. Had a number of players in the building. Had some players in the building that we really didn't have in the building, but I think that's the way it goes this time of year. There's a lot of information that's floating around. Certainly appreciative of the staff. I'd say our entire football operations staff is really involved, from medical to strength conditioning to player development to scouting to coaching, take part in those visits. Really the goal behind that is to try to simulate as best we can what it's like to be a Houston Texan on a day-to-day basis, and the people that you're going to interface with on a day-to-day basis have an opportunity to meet them and have an understanding of what we're about, and they understand, we understand what they're about. They can learn about us. We can learn about them. So I'm certainly appreciative of the entire football operations staff. I'd say specifically,
I don't want to name
can't say enough great things about the college scouting staff and the work and the effort that they put into it. We shifted some responsibilities around a little bit, going into last year. We asked to get some guys to take on a little bit more responsibility. I hate to single anybody out, but do it anyways. I think the work that Lip, John Richard, Zeke Curtis, Brad Matthews, Tom Hayden, those guys put a tremendous amount of time, effort into the overall endeavor. And honestly, we wouldn't be in a position that we're in right now in terms of our preparation for next week without the work of, again, it's not just them. There's a number of other people. Our area scouts are really the boots on the ground, and it starts with them. But they pour a lot into it. They give a significant amount of time, effort, and energy. And by the time we get to Thursday, we have as much information as we need. And the goal is just try to make good decisions.
I'm seeing all the jersey leaks y'all are talking about. I'll touch on it. I've seen them. I'll touch on it when we talk about the Cal stuff and whatnot. Let's skip ahead with Caserio a little bit. He's kind of just summarizing right now.
The off season and get ourselves ready to go for training camp. Hopefully we've improved the team. We're really not going to know if we have or not until training camp. I would say, and honestly, I think the division, when you look at what the other teams around us have done a great job. So, hopefully we can keep pace with what's going on in division as well. So, it's interesting going back to the league meetings. We were there in March, and they provide a lot of information on a lot of, not just rules. There's some other information that is made available, but I want to say it was 70% of the games last year were within one score in the fourth quarter, and then 42% of the games were decided by 6 points or less. Really what it shows is how competitive this league is. So the margins are very small. So we have to do whatever we think we can do to put ourselves in a position to at least have an opportunity. And even going back and looking at our team last year, I mean, what was it, 9 or 10 games were one score games, whatever it was. So the margins are very small. There's a lot of great players, there's a lot of great coaches in this league. So, we're just trying to put ourselves in a position where we have an opportunity to compete. In the end, it's going to come down to how well we execute on Sundays. So, and ultimately it's going to come down to the work and the effort that we put in. So, again, it's kind of where we are. So take some questions, Sarge. We'll start with you and then we'll kind of go from there.
Just wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the things that you all have done in the offseason? I know you said it's, you have to wait to play the games, you have to wait to training camp or whatever, but I mean, from the outside looking in, it's almost like you're winning even before the draft with the additions of the free agents that you have.
You're winning.
Yeah. Just say, generally speaking, our philosophy, even going back to last year, is just try to put together, a good team, try to put ourselves into a position where we feel we can be competitive. And I say, by the same token, when you go into the draft as best you can, you want to put the team in a position where if you had to go out there and play a game today, like we'd be able to put a team on a field. So when we feel as we sit here today, if we had to go out there and play a game, we'd be able to put a team out there, and not necessarily have to rely on the draft to, let's say, add a player. Like I think whoever we draft, I mean, hopefully they'll come in here and create a role and a niche for themselves. Probably gonna be hard to make this team or make a significant impact, and I mean, hopefully that's a good thing. But by the same token, there's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and September. The overall composition of the team, who's available, injuries are a part of it. So that's all we can do is just focus on where we are right now. Hopefully we've added players that can help our team in some capacity, and then hopefully we continue to add to the team as we go here next week. Right now, like I said, we have 9 picks. Call it 9 draft picks. I think right now we're at 73, 74 players. So there's another, call it 15 to 20 spots, give or take. So the big thing is just trying to add the right people with the right mindset, with the right mentality, that just want to come in and work hard and just kind of do their job. And again, try to create as competitive environment, as competitive a situation as possible, which D'Amico has talked about that. And I think philosophically we believe in the same thing. So I mean, everybody is going to have to earn whatever the role and opportunity is, but hopefully the players that we brought them here for a reason because we think they can help us. But by the same token, there's a lot of things that can change, a lot of things that can happen between now and, the start of the season, whenever that is. So, but, hopefully we're in a decent position, but we're certainly not guaranteed anything at this point.
That some of the chatter about the team that you got to build is laughable and garbage. Why do you feel that the move that you made, the positive, feedback you guys got, why do you feel like it's garbage and kind of laughable?
Yeah, I think anything that's said outside the building is just noise. So it doesn't really affect our focus, our preparation. So like we're just focused on our team, we're just focused on improvement, and we're focused on the work. So it's kind of like the draft, or we go through the weekend, we're gonna have on Monday, right, or Sunday afternoon draft grades, right? I mean, it's the most ridiculous concept that I've ever heard of. Like the players haven't even been in the building yet, and we're making an assessment about their performance. It's the same thing in the off season. I mean, nothing is won in the off season. It's all on paper. It's all chatter. Honestly, it's, fun for you guys, I'm sure, to talk about. But our focus is in the building on the things that we can control, which is the work and just continual improvement. So that's not going to change regardless of who's here, regardless of what's said outside of the building. The focus is on the present. The focus is on right now. And we're just trying to do as good a job as we can on a day-to-day basis, because it's about stacking days and weeks together, not about, one move is going to make the difference between what happens between now and the start of the season. So we've never approached it that way. We've never looked at it. I'd say as long as D'Amico and I are in a position to run the football team, that's going to be our philosophy, and that's not going to change.
Stefon Diggs.
Again, the players have to come in here and they have to work. And so it starts with the players. It starts with their attitude. It starts with their performance. Because
he spoke at the owners' meetings. So notice that we've asked him about the offseason. There's been one move that has been made, and we haven't gotten to Stefon Diggs yet. That's 2.
And it's about how the players perform. And in the end, it comes down to how well you execute on Sunday. So we can talk about all we want about what's going on, what the expectation is. Quite frankly, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what goes on behind the scenes. And then we go out there and hopefully we can execute and put ourselves in position each week to put a good product out there.
I know salary cap plays a huge role. But in what ways do you feel like this free agency you all were able to kind of secure some of the bigger names?
In what ways?
Had
Your big names. Here's where he's going to go Hardo.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really know what that means. I think, when you put the team together, you look at the opportunities that are presented in front of you. You have X number of dollars that you have available to you, and it's all about resource allocation. So, I mean, Devin Singletary, was that not like a big enough name last year, I guess? So, again, we're looking for good football players with the right mindset that come in here, espouse our philosophy, and then ultimately have to go out there and perform and play football. So,
said that a lot of players at the Pro Bowl were like, hey, tell Miko, tell the Texans to come get us.
That's 4 questions
To me,
without
that indicates that
Diggs.
a lot of people were interested. So I was just wondering if you saw a lot more interest from free agents, or in what ways did you see them?
Yeah, it's all about opportunity. Like, ultimately, players are going to look at the situation and say, where do I have the best opportunity to perform? What's the situation? And really, it starts with the people that are in that locker room down the hall, the players that are here, a lot of the returning players. And then, honestly, it starts with the head coach. So, I mean, arguably, look, I'm biased, but like, he's one of the best coaches in the league. So I think people want to be around like-minded people with the right mindset that prioritize winning. And I think what we've tried to do is create an environment where people come here and be themselves. We're not trying to force feed anybody into being something who they're not. Come in here, just be yourself. Ultimately, the most important thing that the player has to do, and it's D'Amico's message to the team anytime we get together, we don't have a lot of rules, but ultimately protect the team is the most important thing. So protect the team. And then outside of that, I mean, there's some other things that factor into it. But again, players are going to make a decision based on where they feel they have the best opportunity in front of them. So, I mean, it's a credit to the guys that are in that locker room. It's a credit to the guys that are in the bubble training. So part of our job, my job, is kind of be a steward and figure out where the opportunities lie and try to make the right decisions for the organization and get the right people. And finances are a part of it. Like, I'm not, ignorant. Like, yeah, finances are certainly going to be a part of it.
And he says, I hope
those are the discussions that we have.
Casario's not avoiding it. He hadn't been asked. We've been here for 13 minutes. He hadn't been asked about Diggs. I don't think he's not avoiding it. Matter of fact, he's going to give you a good answer once it gets asked.
With the agents and the representatives. So just because a player is interested in us doesn't necessarily mean we're interested in that player. So does he have the right fit? Do we foresee a role for him? Does he fit the system? Again, like Will said, we're not for everybody. Everybody's not for us. And there's a number of different ways you can view that. It's schematically, it's certain players prioritize other things over others. So that's part of our job and responsibility. And as it pertains to specifically like the draft, like, we have control over the people that we bring in the building. Free agency, to a certain extent, you have control, but you also don't have control because sometimes it's driven financially by the resources that you're willing to allocate. So hopefully we've identified the right people that can come in here and impact the program in a positive way. We'll get more information here as we go here during the spring and training camp. I'm sure there's some players that are here right now, like they may or may not be here by the start of the season, and vice versa. There's probably players that aren't here right now that could end up here in November or in October for some reason, like Derek Barnett did, and a number of different players that came in at different points. So try to take it one day at a time. Try to look at the opportunities that are in front of us, make good decisions, make the right decisions for the organization, and then go from there.
What goes into a discussion with
There's the Diggs question.
Trading for a player like Stefon Diggs, how you guys kind of arrived at that decision?
Yeah, Cody, I'd say I talked to a lot of different teams at different points of the year. So I think we're always open-minded and just trying to look at opportunities that may or may not exist. I would say that was something like I don't think we were really anticipating. But I think I had some conversations at different points, and ultimately it was able to come to fruition, and we felt.
That's interesting. You said we weren't anticipating. So that might make you think, maybe they thought it was a possibility after the Allen deal and it wasn't just an immediate fallback. But when he says didn't think, I guess that doesn't mean he was getting shopped around. Perhaps the Texans inquired and made it worth Buffalo's while. That's an interesting statement.
That, you know, it made sense. It made sense for us to pursue. So I say we talked to a lot of teams about a lot of different things at different points. You know, hopefully, you know, Steph can come in here, and Steph's been a productive player, so hopefully he can come in here and help our team in some capacity.
Why do you think that he is a good fit? You talk about noise outside. There is a label, or people say, oh, he's a diva. And the fact that we haven't heard from Stefon yet, is that a Stefon thing, or is that a football ops thing?
Yeah, number one, I don't even know what that definition means. So if someone can define that for me, again, like, we're not worried about, you know, again, we're worried about what a player does when he walks in our building. So we do our research. We talk to our players. We talk to other players all the time. We talk to our players, you know, as an example, like a lot of the guys are in the draft. And we talk to those players. Hey, what are your thoughts about so-and-so? What is your experience with him? So, and we do our research, and then ultimately D'Amico and I sit and talk. And if we feel comfortable with the decision, then we go ahead and make the decision. Candidly, I think it's unfair to label anybody until they actually have an opportunity to walk in the building. Again, our environment's different than another environment. So we really don't know what's going on in 31 other buildings. We know what's going on in our building. So excited to have stuff here. And, you know, when he gets here, I mean, certainly he's, you know, he'll be available, you know, be ample time for you all to visit with him. So, I mean, again, there's not too many people that have been available. You know, we just started the offseason program. So, like, we're not, you know, sign a free agent and, you know, bring a jersey up here and, like, do a big powwow. Like, that's not how we operate. Like, we don't believe in that. So that's just us philosophically. So other teams choose to do it different.
Y'all had Mixon and Danielle Hunter up there. I mean, nobody's sitting there acting like you got to give him a parade. Come on, Nick. Look at this hardo right here.
So we try to do what we think is right. We're pretty consistent on that. I know Will and CJ were available the other day, so there'll be other players that are available at different points during the spring. So excited to have Steph here, and hopefully he can add to our team.
When I got hesitant to make moves when you feel that the deal is right, what's your philosophy on that thinking, moving up or down to get maybe a position you're looking at?
Talking about moving up or down in the draft now.
More draft wise, or just generally speaking? Yeah, I think we've always been kind of open-minded, be willing to be flexible and adaptable. And movement is contingent, really. It's really player driven. So it's supply and demand. What are the resources available? If you bypass a player at a certain level, what's the opportunity you can get an equivalent player at a later point? Do you have to maybe move in order to secure the services of that player, and at what cost? So there's cost benefit analysis that goes on continually. I think the one thing that we try to do, and, you know, hopefully it's a good enough job in some respects, but it's just be open-minded, be flexible, and be willing to adjust and adapt to the circumstances. And a lot of that is based on your preparation and the information that you have. It's understanding the board top to bottom. It's knowing the players not only at the top, but at the bottom as well. You know, there are probably some players that we actually brought in for visits that we wouldn't draft, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be interested in them, right? So we're just trying to gather as much information along the way as possible, and then just try. The draft ends up being really about positioning and just where do you think you have to move. You're not necessarily making it based on what other teams are doing, but again, you might not be looking at the same players other teams are looking at, but maybe there's a certain position. So, you know, there's a little bit of strategy, maybe some positioning involved. So I think just flexible, adaptable, open-minded. I mean, that's kind of been our thought process and our mindset since we've been here, and, you know, we'll probably continue that moving forward.
From a football standpoint with Stefon, what do you feel like you guys given him just in terms of versatility, all the things that he do? And many years ago, you were thrown to him at that Maryland Pro Day, and
You weren't there for that, were you?
I was. I watched you. I thought you threw well.
It's funny. It's funny you bring that up. No, actually, I was there for that workout. Actually had the opportunity to meet with them after the workout as well as part of our process. So, I mean, I would say like that information, honestly, is probably more relevant than, you know, what other information might be kind of floated around outside the building. But as it pertains to him, I mean, look, he's an experienced player. He's been productive. He's instinctive.
He says that, you know, throw him with him at his pro day. And we're going back a long time, nearly 10 years. That information was more valuable than everything that's happened since that time that many people believe would scare him off. I think that's interesting. That's a good pull by Aaron. And I talked to Aaron, and he actually said, you know, I guess the the quarterback backed out. Stefon Diggs is quarterback at Maryland or whatever in the pro day for whatever reason. And Nick was out there, and Nick just threw to him at his pro day.
Good hands. So, our system is maybe a little bit different than the system that he was in Buffalo, but he was as productive as any player in the league. So there might be some things that we're doing maybe that are similar to maybe what he was doing in Minnesota. But, good football player. We think he can help us, which is why he's here.
Times that the draft can be a crapshoot. So when you draft C.J. Stroud, obviously you have high hopes for him, but you don't know until he plays. You've also said that you look at roster building somewhere in like 2-year windows. So how did his play and knowing that you found a quarterback impact maybe moves that you did this offseason and your plans moving forward?
Yeah, there's a lot there. Look, the draft, it's not an exact science. So I think when you add a player to your team, you add the player because you think at some point he's going to be able to impact you in a positive way. Sometimes that's the way it goes for a myriad of reasons. Sometimes it doesn't work itself out. But I would say we're not making decisions based off of one individual's performance. We're making decisions based off of what we feel is in the best interest of the organization. And I think, and I know there's been some discussion about that comment about, window and some of the other things. I think really the right way to look at it is kind of resource allocation, just from a financial standpoint. So I'd say from a salary cap standpoint, you kind of have X number of dollars that you're going to use maybe in 1 year. Whatever you don't use that year, you're going to roll into the next year, right? And then once we get to 25, then we'll look at 26. So it's just about distribution of resources, but ultimately you're not making decisions based on one individual thing. There's a lot of different ways to put the team together. So we just have to put the team together, in a way that we feel makes the most sense for us. So I think what you're looking for with younger players is improvement from 1 year to the next. So I think that's the biggest challenge for younger players, especially players, in their first year going in their second year. It's about improvement, and can you make some adjustments relative to your performance last year? So, what happened last year is great, but quite frankly, it doesn't have any bearing on what goes on this year. You're only going to be judged on how well you perform this year. So, again, the team building process, it's probably, one of the most enjoyable aspects of my job because it's never one size fits all. So you sort of have to be open-minded and kind of bob and weave a little bit and willing to make decisions in real time, and also be willing to kind of make adjustments in real time as well. So it goes back to preparation, it goes back to information, it goes back to understanding players, it goes back to understanding the league as best you can, and just trying to figure out kind of how it's all going to fit together.
From this perspective, how does the draft staff work with?
Who cares? How does the draft staff work with him? We've heard that.
Everybody's opinion at some point. He's available. So say this situation was similar to kind of what we went through with Jason McCourty, however many years back.
You mentioned Sean and Seth here.
Jason was released. He was going to be on the waiver wire. We kind of intercepted that release. Bill and I talked about this situation. Hey, this is a player we're interested in. All right, if we're willing to give up the compensation that was associated with it, then we were able to consistent player with
this year's team.
Talking about when he first
really
got
thought
here,
about that. I think anytime you kind of take on a new job or challenge, it's going to be difficult. Nothing's ever easy. So I think you're just trying to be opportunistic and try to take advantage of the situation and really just keep the focus short term and kind of take it one day at a time. I think philosophically, I've always believed in just trying to make good, sound decisions on behalf of the organization. Our job is to put the organization in the best position as possible, try to put together as good a team as possible. I'd say you're relying on a lot of people around you. Running a football team it's a team endeavor. It's not about one person. I've always kind of viewed my job as kind of a steward and just a supportive role, and just try to navigate through the waters, however choppy they are. So the league is hard. You have to embrace that. But that's also one of the enjoyable aspects of the job. Nothing's easy. Nothing that you're in life is ever easy. So, I think you have to be willing to embrace challenges and kind of see the silver lining and not worry about the things that you can't control or out of your control. But try to take as positive approach as possible, be pragmatic, be realistic about the opportunity, the situation, and then just try to make good decisions. And if you're doing it with the right people, and really what you're, and I've said this from the beginning, you're just trying to put a team and organization in a position where you have some degree of consistency and stability, and you have a chance on a year-to-year basis to do something, pretty cool. Doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically going to translate to X number of wins and losses. I mean, the best teams are going to lose 5 or 6 games. So you're going to face challenges every year. So the challenges this year may be a little bit different than challenges when we first took over, but that's okay. That's a fun part of the job. So, I would just say I'm just grateful and thankful for the opportunity that I've been provided here over the last, 3 years going into year 4. I'm going to try to do the best job I can for the organization and try to help the organization as much as possible, as long as they'll have me, and just try to make as positive an impact on the organization and the team and the community as much as possible. So understanding that we're relying on a lot of people around us. I'm relying on a lot of people around me. You have a lot of trust. This business is about relationships. It's about people. So if we do it with the right people, with the right mindset, then hopefully we put our team in a position where we can be competitive on a year-to-year basis. And ultimately that's the goal. Yeah, somebody that maybe had an opportunity to ask a question, and then we can always go back to somebody else. So.
We'll close with Cody, Jonathan, DJ, Sarge. Anybody else have? Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
When you put together a draft evaluation of a prospect, how much goes into how can the guy help day one versus how can the guy help maybe in November, December, versus how can he help in the years to come with that player?
It's a good question. It's kind of a moving target. Sometimes it's circumstantial. Sometimes it's contingent upon maybe some other players that are in the building already. But everybody kind of gets.
I promise I'll get to the uniform leaks. We'll hear this Cody question and then we'll get this going.
It's the same opportunity, and you don't want to pigeonhole a player and say, well, he's not going to be ready until November. Maybe he expedites that because his performance, and he shows the confidence, and he gets the confidence and faith of his teammates and the coaches around him. So when people walk in the building, everybody kind of has the same opportunity. I would say, just generally speaking, Cody, a lot of these players are behind just relative to their development, where they are physically. I would say for whatever reason this year, it seems like more players are further behind. And again, some of them have been advised to basically, after the combine or their workouts, basically don't do anything physically in lieu of they don't want them to get hurt or anything like that. Well, okay, you lose, call it 4 to 6 months of training, which means when you come in a building in May, you're behind physically. So maybe we think the player is going to be ready physically, but part of our assessment is to see where they are physically, do some testing, get some baseline testing. And we're not going to put the player in a position and kind of force feed it. The player's ready when he's ready. I would say, just going back to last year's group, I mean, other than, I'd say a player like Brandon Hill might be in a situation like you kind of alluded to, where other than Brandon, everybody else made a contribution to the team last year. Brandon really didn't, because he got off to a slow start, was injured in rookie camp and in OTA.
That's a flex right there. That's basically saying I had a draft where everybody except one guy didn't contribute. You ain't fooling me here, Hardo Nick.
And he really didn't have a training camp, but I'd say the work that Brandon has put into this point, he's put himself in a position where he's going to have an opportunity. So excited about, his chances and what he can provide. So it's case by case. And again, it's all about how do they perform, how much progress do they make, and how much information can they absorb in a short period of time. And we're not going to, again, put a timetable on anything, kind of pigeonhole anybody. When they're ready, they're ready. Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it takes 2 years. But after kind of that first iteration, draft, offseason program, training camp, in-season, off-season, you should have a decent idea of the player's ability and opportunity in front of them, understanding there could be some things that derail that. So you're kind of weighing everything. There are actually probably some players in this year's draft who physically might not be ready to contribute maybe early on in the season. So maybe you're drafting them for next year. Okay, then that's a decision you have to make and say, are we comfortable with that? Do we want to try to gain a player's services? Understanding maybe he's not ready. So those are all the discussions that we're going to have. I think it's a pretty astute observation. But again, every case is going to be different, and you kind of have to treat each individual player kind of differently and not really force feed anything. Hopefully that answers the question. Jonathan DJ Cole.
Yeah, when you have your top 30 visits, what are some things that you have?
I mean, you could ask
What are
this
some things that
anytime.
you're
Like, what are you
looking
looking for in a
during
top
that
30 visit?
process?
We can skip
And
that one.
how
For you.
Russ.
So there you go. That's Nick Caserio here in the locker room. So I think it's interesting because Caserio is kind of intense. He's kind of wired up. Little bit hardo. I like it. I like the mindset. He's wired up. He's confident. He's ready to go. Quite frankly, some of these questions you could ask anytime. But it was good to hear him about Diggs. I thought it was interesting how he talked about the process, et cetera. So yeah, very, very interesting. So while all this was happening, a little bit later, there was kind of some wild uniform leakage, which I guess we got an ad at an event here because CTESPN has the internet going nuts. But event one today was there as we know about the original leak of the uniforms. But there was a leak of the helmet today, and I'll be honest, if you've been in here, you've seen how kind of just annoyed I've been by the whole process of the uniforms because showing them to us a month and a half before, you're not really going to say whether you saw them or not because I think it would be unfair to y'all. But then you have other media types that want to let y'all know that they saw them, and then you have the original leak. And you have this leak here. So when this one happened, and this is one of the helmets that we saw, the Texans have confirmed it because after we had this leak, the original leak, then we had the buzz, everybody going crazy on the internet. Then the Texans admitted it somewhat cryptically. The Texans admitted that this was a leak, much like last time where Cal McNair had to go on Reddit. The Texans admin, which is actually, I thought this was actually a good job by them. The Texans admin basically admits to the leak with a little bit of a gif right there. You see the leaking. And then you had Cal McNair confirm it a little bit later on with the dog photo, and you can kind of see the logo right there that was on the helmet. So that's what went down with today with the leak. And quite frankly, you thought originally that was going to be the only thing that happened. Is okay, so you've already had one of your 4 uniforms leak, the road. Now you've had a helmet leak. This one, I think it's funny. You can kind of see the guy's reflection right there, taking the picture. That's pretty funny. But yeah, that was really the tale of the leaks. As far as the helmet itself, I really think, and maybe we'll get some clarity on this when we get into to one that really has the internet going nuts. I think originally people saw this and they thought, and maybe you're right, I don't know, that there's going to be like some full Houston blue helmet, and you're going to wear that with the or full blue Houston blue jersey, H-Town blue jersey with that. So I think it really kind of matters. People are asking if it's black or blue. It looks blackish to me, but hey, I'll let y'all judge when you see it next Tuesday at 10 when the uniforms are leaked. And Cal McNair and Hannah McNair are actually going to join me live in studio. So if you're not subscribed to the Sports Radio 610 YouTube channel, 11 a.m., 1 hour after the uniforms leak, Cal and Hannah McNair will be in studio with us on the show. So we had that happen, and then we had this happen, and this actually happened as time did this happen? This happened at 10 o'clock. So this happened 30 minutes before I came on. I guess at some point when I was playing around with my daughter, this happened. alleged Antonio Brown CT ESPN league. Let's take a look at this. We got to be kind of careful. We did sign that NDA on the unis. Just kind of seems like this is getting a little bit wild. But here's Antonio Brown, AB, with his alleged league. Let's take a closer look at this. So it says CT ESPN leak at Houston Texans, 2024-2025 jerseys. It's always funny to read the comments too. No way these are real. These it? Question mark. I got tagged. All that. Another tag. Damn, I love you guys so much for always keeping me in the loop. Thank you so much. Why are you asking Jeremy Chuggs? He ain't even in Houston. Come on, bro. Don't be asking him. He ain't seen him. And then there was that. But here's the uniforms that Antonio Brown put out. So this one, I'm guessing he's saying this one's going to be the home. That's one that he has right there. Okay. All right. Y'all tell me how y'all what y'all think about that. Let's see. Oh, okay. We've already seen this one, right? So this is the white one that we've already seen. So I'm not going to confirm that first one, but I am going to say this does look this looks like a Nike Pixel. So this looks like it's straight from the factory, but I will say, if you want to question if these are real or not, I would say that given the fact that we've seen this uniform, that I think that at least lends some credibility. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to feel or anything, but I would say people asking me if this is it, all I'm going to say is we know this is it right here, one of the four. So do with that what you will. Next one. This one looks a little bit different. Looks like a little bit different color than the other. Is that a black uniform? So there's that. A little bit more there. Got the traditional logo as opposed to this one where you have, it looks like that might hypothetically fit into the helmet we saw earlier. Perhaps black, I would say. That this looks a little more blue. So maybe they have some black, I don't know. And then there's a red right there with some horns. So I'll be honest. I don't think I can just come out and specifically say that I saw that these are right. I would say Antonio Brown saying, imagine a world where Antonio Brown's network, CTESPN, leaks the Texans and Bronco jerseys a week before the release. He has CTESPN stock. So yeah, these are the jerseys. How would these make you feel? If you saw them, it ain't that's I don't think that would be Astros orange. I think that would be red. That's what I would say. I would say these do look familiar-ish. I would say these look familiar. I don't know, I think I may have seen these at some point. Not sure though. They look familiar-ish. They just need to. This has been a disaster with all these leaks. They need to figure something out. But I will say the colors are going to be pretty interesting. But yeah, the color looks off because it's a thing. I would guess that would be black. And that helmet that we saw is kind of blackish. If I was guessing, that's what I would say. And then I would say that this one we've already seen. So there's no if, ands, or buts about it. That's it. So that's I'm kind of trying to push you in the right direction. Someone says these aren't real jerseys. Okay, that's the jersey that we've seen, right, sir? I know I saw that on that model. That's the one that we see tanking them in. And this might give you a little guide. Go back and look at the tank thing. But yeah. And Dominic, I don't know what you're talking about. You're not confirming or denying. You're tiptoeing like you were trying to get at the end to the end zone. I don't know what the end zone means, brother. I don't know what that means. Dominic's talking about why are people so obsessed with the jerseys? I don't know what you're saying. I mean, if you're not smart enough to follow along and know what an NDA is, then that's a you thing, buddy. That's a you thing, buddy. You need to figure your stuff out. You might be the one with the CTE. And then you have this one. If this were the home jersey that they trotted out, I mean, what are we doing here? Do we need the Spider-Man gif for this? I mean, if that's the home that they're going to go with, then I mean, goodness gracious, that's what we waited for right there. That's the home. Okay. We'll see about that. I mean, people are asking me if the color rush is different. All right, let's look at this, okay? That looks kind of blue to me, doesn't it? Like I'm just asking. That looks blue to me, right? It's kind of funny how they got the H-Town blue shade though, but does that look blue to you? Does that look the same color as that? Like if you're asking, I'm just asking you. Because I think naturally we all admit that the colors are off. But if we were going to say that this is real, use this as perhaps a guide and compare it to the Tank Dell and the Nico Collins picture that we see. And maybe based on that guide, you can train your eyes to adjust, maybe not 100% accurately, but accordingly. And based on that, I would say that looks blue, right? So we see the blue right here. We see what the blue looks like on the 24, right? Okay. That looks like this base jersey color, correct? Right? Okay. And that's the same. The red's the same, right? That's the same. That's the same. So we know that the red is accurate. So we know that the colors don't change from thing to thing, right? So there you go. There's the red there. Looks the exact same there. There's the blue, right? Looks blue there, right? I'm trying to help y'all out, okay? I'm over this leak crap. Okay? Does that look the same to you? Does that look the same to you? Not to me. I'm not known. My eyes sometimes get really low late. But yeah. I'm gonna have to put Dominic in timeout. I don't even know what this weasel's talking about. I gotta put you in timeout, brother. You ain't saying much. But yeah, okay. So we're getting somewhere, right? We're getting somewhere. That's a different color, right? Than that, right? And that color right there, that base color, is on these numbers. And we've seen the real jerseys here. I feel like tell me if I'm helping y'all out at all. Just tell me if I'm helping y'all out. If y'all feel you're guiding. It looks that way. Don't know. And then we have the red right there. There's the red. Look at those horns, man. Look at the horns on the side. And the numbers. And they all have the right there, the H-Town blue on the inside tag. You notice that? So right there at the top, we got the H-Town blue right there. So yeah, interesting time. Gotta feel like we did a nice little exercise there, right? Ready? Break. Boom. The biggest takeaway from me, if I were looking at that, would be that if one of those jerseys is blue, the other one ain't blue. Think about it. But yeah, I think I don't know how Cal and Hannah will take this leak. I do find it interesting that it's happened twice for how much work was put in. Now, maybe they can be told or they can like convince themselves that, this is kind of cool. It's creating buzz. It's revolutionary. But the vibe I'm getting right now, and even from people that are extremely excited about it, is, man, come on. Like, what are we waiting for? Like, let's just get this together and let's just get this done. That's the vibe I'm kind of getting at this point is, all right, enough is enough. Merck won. If I'm not mistaken, Merck, and you can tell me, I don't remember everything. I think you were actually somewhat excited at first, right? Am I thinking of someone else? I think you were actually somewhat excited, but you're one of those people that at this point is like, man, just release the damn things. I could be wrong. The gear does look sick though. So that's what I got for you. That was the helmet. Yes, I've seen that helmet. I saw the white jerseys. The Antonio Brown thing. Did he leak the uniforms? I don't know. That looks like something that would be an art thing, doesn't it? The thing is, the colors are confusing. So I've seen the uniforms, but the colors are confusing. But if I were just looking at that Antonio Brown leak like y'all were, I would think that the white uniform, that's exact, right? That's an exact copy of what we've seen before. So that's how I would train my eyes. I would take that blue, put it there, figure it out, bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Did he do it? I think he did. Not sure. He might have been the one who leaked it, if we're being honest. Who knows? Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Crazy day for Nick Caserio. Huber said this is the best they could do with all the feedback. I mean, I just want y'all to see the real things. I'll tell you that I really like the red helmet. I really like the original red helmet, the one that they've been wearing for the last couple of years. Been kind of a big fan of that. So yeah, I wouldn't have, me personally, I wouldn't have touched the red helmet. I would have kept that the same. And we'll see what happens with that. I know that there's a lot of people that are getting a lot of stuff now. Dominic, he's already in timeout. Why are people obsessed with the leaks? I don't get it. What do you mean? Like, what's obsessed mean? I think they just want to see the uniforms and how they're what they look like. What do you mean you don't get it? You're the one that you seem more obsessed than anyone in here. It's always weird when people try to call people out on the net. B Pimp, ain't gonna lie, them jerseys look ass. The hat has to be the best merch. Yeah, I think the merch is gonna be sick. Cap, I don't care if it's Diggs has a presser as long as he balls out. Okay. Just Tad says Cal leaked both times and had his rebuttals ready. False. That's y'all are trying too hard. I like putting thought into the takes. Yeah, Cal did not leak these. Trust me. I actually wonder how much of a pain in the ass this has become for him. I think he's open. I think he likes mingling with the fans, but at what point does it become a pain in the ass where Cal's going about his day and then all of a sudden he has to take a picture in his front yard with the hat and he has to do all the other stuff? Yeah. Don't know about all that. So yeah, check that out. I don't think they got rid of any logo. There might be alternative, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of merch. I'm anticipating it being ready to go next Thursday, based on the warehouse and everything. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be at the uniform release next week, and we'll get this going. Don't forget Daily Sports Club next Saturday. Got a lot of folks coming out, and you should too. $20 Nicky's Buckets, Hardo Nicky's Buckets, which means domestic beers. 6. Gonna have other drink specials. Crawford box might be $3. Drafts. So yeah, come through. Daily Sports Club next Saturday. We'll react to day 2. I'm going to be there. Cody Stutz is going to be there. Figgy Fig, a.k.a. Figgy Fig Media. I think I got 713 Sports coming through. I told him to come through. Texans Cap coming through. Whoever the hell wants to come through, come through. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interactive. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I appreciate all y'all for coming through. All black unis. I don't know, man. All I know is that those two colors, those two dark colors weren't the same. Go back and look at that helmet. Was that helmet black or was that blue? The one that they showed, that helmet, was that black or blue? Let's think about it, man. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Be sure to like the stream as well. Like H-Town says. I appreciate y'all. very much. David asks how the dog is. Got to stay in the hospital one more day, at least. A little sluggish. Went and visited, but yeah, got to stay in the hospital. But, no days off, baby, no matter what. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. I don't feel like I'm being vague. I feel like I'm giving some pretty good information here. I mean, I'm being vague-ish. I'm not going to sit here and lay it all out for you, but I mean, if I want to be vague, I wouldn't say anything. I feel like I've given you a lot of information. I don't know how vague is. If what I've said here hasn't gotten your brain going, or you're not being guided in like some direction on how to figure this out, I don't know what to tell you. That's a you thing. That's not a me thing. That's a you thing. That's not a me thing. The vague would be, I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I don't know. You have to figure out for yourself. I need to look up the definition of vague, homie. Know what you're talking about, my friend. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Yeah, I dissected it like a science project. Goodness gracious. We're good to go, man. We're straight. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. My gosh, Antonio Brown. What if Antonio Brown has Cal McNair shuffling right now, getting ready at 12:30? Who knows? Did Antonio Brown leak the uniform? 713-572-4610. Tomorrow, we'll definitely get into that. Going to be at the Chevron Open, first women's golf major of the year. So they're letting me on a golf course. I'm not using my golf voice. You guys know better than that. Appreciate you for coming through. Locker room. Talk to you 10 a.m. Sports Radio 610.
Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know where we about.